We had left Watford after being stuck there for about an hour and a half, with much sort of toing and froing by the train, and I thought to myself something had gone wrong with the train. Had it broken down? It seemed to stay there forever. And then we left there, and then we must have been going maybe for another few hours. And then what happened next was the train just started to speed up. It got very, very fast, and then there was the screeching of brakes, a loud bang, the noises coming from everywhere. I was lying in my bunk. I was thrown out of my bunk onto the floor of the compartment, and then the next thing I knew, I was on the railway line.
Wow! What you'd gone out? You'd gone out through the window of the train, had you?
No, I went through the floor of the compartment.
Wow!
And I was right underneath the compartment, the actual carriage. And when the rescuers came, they had to crawl underneath to get to me.
So you were you finished up. You were in your bunk in a sleeper compartment, yes, and you ended up on the essentially between the tracks underneath the train.
Exactly. Yes, I was. My side was actually bent over the railway line, and I could see outside. It was pitch black, and the first thing I saw was in the distance was another train, which was just in one of the sidings, and there was absolutely nothing. It was an eerie silence for what seemed like an eternity. Yeah. And then eventually someone came running down the line with a torch, shouting, "Was anybody there?" And I tried to attract his attention, but my voice just went completely. I tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come out. And he ran away down the line, and then he came back again, calling out to people. And eventually he saw me. And I said that I couldn't move my legs. Could he help me? And he said, he crawled in beside me, and he says, "I can't help you, but I'll go and get help." And he went away again, and like a long time. Then he came back. There was other people with searchlights, and then eventually doctors came, nurses came, the fire service, and then the rescue started.
And did you know at that stage? I mean, you're there, you're lying there, your legs are trapped. Do you panic at first, Norma? I mean, do you kind of have that? What do you do psychologically in that situation?
Well, initially, I couldn't understand it. I couldn't understand why 1 minute I was in my bunk, in the compartment, and then the next thing I was on the railway line. I couldn't quite fathom how I'd ended up there. Yeah. And initially, I think I did panic, but then I just had to sort of wait until someone came, and then they'd be able to explain it to me. But I just went along with the rescuers. I just had to sort of wait until they arrived.
You didn't realise whether you were injured, if you were injured, how seriously, because I'm guessing adrenaline kicks in, Norma, and you don't feel pain, or were you in pain at the time?
At the time, I wasn't in any pain at all. As I say, both my legs were trapped, and the way I was lying, my left arm seemed to be away back. I couldn't move my shoulder, but it wasn't sore at that time. It wasn't until later on that it started to get painful. But then by that time, there was doctors and nursing staff there to give me pain-killing injections. You
said you had, and people will understand this if they've ever been in any kind of accident. Your understanding of time and how much time has passed goes just completely, doesn't it? Do you know how long were you under the train lying on the railway tracks? Did you ever find that out?
It was just about 6 hours.
Wow. And in what weather conditions? What was it? Was it? I mean, you never know with June in this country, do you? What was it like?
Well, actually, believe it or not, it was the start of the 1975 heat wave.
Right.
I had left London that night, and it was in beautiful sunshine, and then all that night it wasn't cold at all. It was a very warm night. But later on, in the early hours of the morning, I did start to get cold, but then that's just the way I was.
When you look, and I mentioned six died in that crash, 36 were left with serious injuries, and people survived. And it's amazing when you look at the pictures and you hear your explanation that we're not talking about something far worse than this. A train crash at 80 miles an hour, you would expect a higher injury rate at least. When you saw the enormity, Norma, of what you'd been involved in, How did you respond to that? I mean, were you shocked? Because you were saying you didn't really know how you got to where you were. When you realised what it was and how big it was, give me a reaction.
What do you mean while I was still lying there?
No, when you were lying in your hospital bed maybe, and you're looking at the pictures in the paper, and you're thinking that was me. I was in that. How does that play out for you?
Yeah, well, I think about a couple of days later when I saw it on television, and then I was reading the newspapers. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that that's what I'd come out of. And my brother had been down in Nuneaton at the time to visit me, and he had taken photographs of all the train just to let me see what I had come out of, and I couldn't believe it. I mean, the train was just, the carriages were upended, they were all over the railway line. It was just an absolute disaster.